Hey, thanks for clicking on this video. Today, we're going on an adventure to Colorado in 2014. Imagine how it would feel if you discovered that someone you love, your husband or your son, is cheating on you. What would you do? Get angry, cry, or maybe just be so confused you don't even know how to react? Well, we've got a story about a real estate guy in Littleton, Colorado, whose life ended in a very unusual way. This guy was found in a terrible, lifeless state. You might be thinking, wow, is this the latest episode of a crime drama? But hold on. Turns out, the person behind this murder shocked the whole of America. Curious about how this story unfolds? Will we find more surprises and twists like in the movies? Let's dive into the tale of Wendy Angelbird and her husband, Richard Angelbird, who became victims of this mysterious murder. Don't forget to grab your popcorn because this story is way more intense than you might expect. Richard Engelbird is a 48-year-old guy living in Littleton, Colorado. Yeah, the kind of place that makes you think, how did this even become a thing? Ha ha ha. Anyway, Richard is a well-known real estate agent in his community and is often seen driving a sleek black car with a license plate that says, Sexy Realtor. He's married to Wendy, a school principal, and they have an adopted son named Harrison. Richard graduated from the University of Colorado with a business degree and has been working in real estate for over 20 years. People in Littleton trust Richard because he always seems friendly and reliable. Richard lives in a big 2-story house with a well-maintained lawn. Sometimes neighbors see him in the yard, greeting them with a warm smile and a wave. He's also frequently spotted at local events and charity fundraisers, and he often sponsors local Little League teams. Richard is a regular churchgoer every Sunday and seems to have the perfect life with a beautiful home, a successful career, and a loving family. But Richard has a secret life, and it's not just any secret. For the past 2 years, he's been having a sexual relationship with his stepson, Harrison. Oh my God! Whoa! Seriously? I can't believe it! Richard's been hiding this relationship from everyone because he's afraid it'll ruin his reputation and career. And it's not just with his stepson. He's also meeting other guys for sex through his work, using the houses he shows as secret rendezvous spots. Yeah, this double life is clearly causing a lot of stress and tension. No surprise there, it's bound to be a mess. In the days leading up to his death, Richard was busy with work, closing deals, and meeting clients. He spent hours at the office and often came home late at night. Richard was really looking forward to a weekend getaway to the Bahamas with his wife, Wendy, hoping to relax and forget about his problems for a while. He also planned to attend a July 4th barbecue at a friend's house, hoping to catch up with old friends and enjoy some time away from his busy schedule. Richard's friends described him as charismatic and charming, the sexy guy, you know? Not just friendly, but he also made people feel comfortable and important. However, Richard was deeply troubled by his secret life. He felt guilty about his affair with Harrison and the lies he'd told to keep it hidden. He was also worried that if Wendy found out, it would destroy his marriage and his standing in the community. In his final days, Richard often looked seriously stressed, trying to maintain his public charm, which was starting to seem a bit suspicious. His dream of a perfect life was slowly unraveling, leading to a tragic end before his death.
Before we dive into the juicy details, make sure you hit that subscribe button. You don't want to miss out on more shocking stories. And don't forget to like and share this video. Get your friends to watch and hear this story too. Who knows, they might have equally jaw-dropping secrets. Plus, subscribing helps keep me away from boring office jobs. So, do a fellow human a favor, okay?
On June 27, 2014, Wendy Angelbird got home early in the afternoon from her job as a school principal. She was looking forward to a relaxing evening watching some Netflix and reading her favorite book. When she walked through the front door of their house on Black Street in Littleton, Colorado, everything seemed normal at first. Wendy put her keys in the kitchen and called out for Richard, but there was no answer, which made her a bit curious. Wendy decided to check the basement, where Richard often spent time working on his real estate files or watching the History Channel. As she went down the stairs, Wendy noticed that the basement door was locked, something that was out of the ordinary. She called Richard's name louder, but still no response. When she got to the bottom of the stairs, Wendy was met with a shocking sight. She found Richard lifeless, with his face bruised and battered. A fancy belt of Richard's was tightly wrapped around his neck, clearly used to strangle him to death. Wendy also saw a lot of blood stains on the carpet and furniture in the room. In a hysterical state, Wendy screamed and ran to the living room, hoping it was just a cruel joke. But despite her efforts, there was no response from her husband. In shock, Wendy grabbed her phone and immediately called 911. With a trembling voice, Wendy told the operator, "My husband has been murdered. I think he's been killed," and then she broke down in tears. The operator tried to calm Wendy down and asked her to stay calm until the police arrived. Wendy's neighbor, Luby Johnson, who heard Wendy's frantic screams, rushed over to see what was going on. Luby saw Wendy sobbing uncontrollably in the middle of her house. Seeing Wendy in such a chaotic state, Luby asked what happened, and Wendy showed her the horrifying scene of her husband's murder. Luby tried to calm her down while waiting for the police to arrive. Time seemed to crawl for Wendy as she wondered who could have done this to her husband and why. When the police arrived at Wendy's house, they quickly secured the crime scene. Luby moved Wendy away from the living room and outside the house. Even though the police were there, Wendy was still in shock and couldn't process what had happened to her husband. She kept questioning why this was happening and who could commit such a heinous act. Wendy couldn't come to terms with the brutal death of her husband. The discovery of Richard's body shocked his friends who knew him well. News of the murder in Littleton spread quickly. Neighbors and friends gathered at the Angelbert home, trying to understand the tragedy that had struck their usually quiet community. At 3:15 p.m. on June 27, 2014, the Littletown Police Department received Wendy Angelbert's panicked 911 call. Officers quickly arrived on the scene, led by Detective James Carroll, an experienced investigator known for his meticulous approach. The Angelbert home on the quiet O Street quickly got swarmed by police cars, with yellow tape marking off the area. Detective Carroll and his team wasted no time getting into the basement, where they found a horrifying scene after breaking down the door. Richard's body was lying on the floor with a fancy belt wrapped tightly around his neck. Blood stains were visible on the carpet and surrounding furniture, indicating a struggle. Detective Carroll, a guy in his 40s with sharp eyes and a calm demeanor, examined the crime scene with determination. The police started gathering evidence, taking photos of the scene from various angles, and documenting every detail. The belt used in the murder was carefully wrapped as evidence. They also began searching for fingerprints and other clues that might lead them to the culprit. Detective Carroll noted the scattered furniture and signs of a struggle that showed Richard had fought hard to stay alive. Forensic experts arrived to process the scene. They used luminol to detect blood traces not visible to the naked eye and collected samples for DNA analysis. They meticulously combed through the area, looking for fibers, hair, and any other potential evidence. The brutality of the crime even shocked the most experienced officers, but they stayed focused on gathering all possible information. Detective Carroll interviewed Wendy Angelbert, who was still in shock from finding her husband's body. Wendy recounted the day in detail and emotionally described the horrifying moment she discovered Richard. Despite her distress, Wendy insisted she had no idea who could have done this. Her alibi was quickly verified. Wendy had been at work when the murder occurred. Next, the police started canvassing the neighborhood, talking to neighbors, including Luby Johnson, who had come to Wendy's house during the incident. Luby described hearing Wendy's screams and finding her on the front steps, desperate and incoherent. Other neighbors mentioned seeing Richard earlier in the day, but nothing seemed suspicious. The police also checked Richard's recent phone and email records, hoping to find clues. They found several suspicious messages and calls indicating that Richard had met with some men for secret encounters. These messages added a new dimension to the investigation, suggesting a potential motive related to Richard's secret life. As the day turned into night, the police continued their work with determination to find the brutal murderer. After clearing the scene, Detective Carroll and his team reviewed the collected evidence and prepared for the next steps in their investigation. The Littleton community watched anxiously, hoping for answers and justice for Richard Angelbert. One of the suspects in this murder is his wife, Wendy Angelbert. Wendy is a respected school principal in Littletown, known for her intelligence and strong personality. She had worked with the school district for over 15 years and was very involved in community activities. Her colleagues described her as a dedicated and authoritative individual, always striving to do her best. Wendy was brought in for interrogation the day after the murder, on June 28, 2014. Detective James Carroll led the interrogation, trying to piece together Wendy's actions and emotions. Even though she seemed tired and desperate, Wendy answered calmly. She described her workday and the terrifying moment she found Richard's body at home. Despite her calm demeanor, the police closely observed every detail. Wendy's anger and confusion were evident during the interrogation. She expressed her disbelief and frustration over Richard's affair, insisting she had no idea her husband was involved sexually with other men. The revelation of the affair added tension to the interrogation as Detective Carroll dug deeper into Wendy's feelings about her husband's betrayal. Detective Carroll asked Wendy about her relationship with Richard. Wendy admitted they had a strong partnership, but also mentioned they had faced some challenges recently. She said she was unaware of Richard's secret life. Wendy explained that she had recently suffered an injury that made it hard for her to read people's behavior, and suggested this might be why she missed signs of Richard's double life. Wendy's alibi was solid. She had been at school all day, attending meetings and preparing for the upcoming school year. Co-workers and security camera footage confirmed her presence at work at the time of the murder. However, Wendy's connection to the victim kept her as a person of interest for Detective Carroll's investigation. They explored the possibility of a motive, considering that Wendy's reputation and career were very important to her, and Richard's affair could threaten both. Despite this, Wendy firmly denied being involved in the murder and insisted she was innocent. During the interrogation, she was cooperative and provided all requested information, including access to her phone and email for further investigation by the police. The police conducted a thorough search of the Angelbert home, looking for evidence that might link Wendy to the crime. However, they found nothing that implicated her, reinforcing Wendy's alibi and statements. Still, the detectives remained cautious, aware that emotions can drive even the most rational person to desperate actions. After several hours of questioning, Wendy was finally released but remained under surveillance as the investigation continued. The police kept monitoring her interactions and movements while following up on other leads. The murder case of Richard Angelbert turned out to be very complex, with layers of secrets and motives slowly being uncovered. Richard's 20-year-old stepson, Harrison, became the next suspect. Harrison was a college student and part-time bartender known to have a troubled past. He had been through several rehab programs during his teenage years. Despite these challenges, Harrison was determined to turn his life around and was pursuing a degree in psychology at a local college. On June 28, 2014, Harrison was brought in for questioning by Detective Carroll. Knowing the sensitive nature of Harrison's relationship with Richard, Detective Carroll approached the interrogation cautiously. Harrison seemed nervous but remained cooperative and was willing to share his story. He admitted to the police that he had been having a secret sexual relationship with his stepfather for 2 years. Harrison explained that he felt extremely guilty and revealed that he had just ended the relationship after discovering that Richard had been cheating with multiple other men, using the homes he showed as a real estate agent as secret meeting spots. During the interrogation, Harrison showed a mix of anger and sadness. He felt deeply betrayed by Richard, not only because of the affair but also due to Richard's lies and manipulation. Despite his bitterness, Harrison claimed he never intended to hurt Richard. He said that on the night of the murder, he was working as a bartender, and several witnesses confirmed his alibi. Harrison had a history of emotional turmoil and drug abuse, raising concerns. However, his recent efforts to stay clean and focus on his studies painted a different picture. Harrison was open about his struggles and his desire to distance himself from his toxic relationship with Richard. The police also examined Harrison's electronic devices, including his social media accounts, looking for any involvement in the crime. They found messages between Harrison and Richard indicating tension and conflict, but nothing directly linking him to the murder. Although Harrison's DNA was found at the scene, this wasn't surprising since he also lived in the house. Harrison's cooperation and consistent alibi made it difficult for the police to accuse him. After several hours of questioning, Harrison was released but remained a key figure in the investigation. The police continued to monitor his activities and interactions, searching for any inconsistencies or new evidence that could explain his involvement. The complex dynamics between Richard and Harrison added layers of difficulty to the case, leaving Detective Carroll and his team with more questions than answers. They kept digging, hoping to uncover the truth behind Richard Engelbert's brutal murder. Alexa Hernandez, 30, was the third suspect in the investigation. Alexa had a past relationship with Richard Engelbert, making her a person of interest in the case. Alexa had once caught Richard having sex with her husband in their bathroom. This incident ended her marriage and earned her a reputation for having a fiery temper. On June 29, 2014, Detective James Carroll brought Alexa in for questioning. Alexa worked as a waitress at a popular local restaurant and was known for her blunt and stubborn nature. She walked into the interrogation room with a challenging look, ready to defend herself. Detective Carroll started asking Alexa about her relationship with Richard. Alexa admitted she hated Richard for wrecking her marriage and causing her a lot of emotional pain. She described the day she found her husband and Richard together as the worst day of her life. After the incident, she confronted Richard several times, seeking answers and an apology, but Richard ignored her. When asked about her whereabouts on the day of the murder, Alexa said she was working a double shift at the restaurant and provided the names of coworkers who could vouch for her. Detective Carroll then called the restaurant and spoke with Alexa's manager, who confirmed that Alexa had worked all day. Several coworkers also confirmed seeing Alexa during her shift. Even though Alexa's alibi was strong, Detective Carroll continued to explore other possibilities. Alexa's anger toward Richard was evident, but she insisted she had moved on and was focused on rebuilding her life. Alexa mentioned that she was taking evening classes at a local college with hopes of becoming a social worker to help others facing similar struggles. The police then searched Alexa's home and car for any evidence that might link her to the crime. However, they didn't find anything suspicious or incriminating. Alexa's phone records and social media activity also showed no contact with Richard in the weeks leading up to the tragic events. During the interrogation, Alexa remained calm despite her obvious disdain for Richard. She answered all questions honestly and showed no signs of guilt or deceit. Detective Carroll noted Alexa's cooperation and honesty, but he knew they needed to stay cautious and keep all information secure. After several hours of questioning, Alexa was released. The police continued to monitor her due to her past with Richard, but the lack of evidence made it difficult to link her directly to Richard's murder. The investigation into Richard Engelbert's murder grew more complex. Detective Carroll and his team were determined to find the truth, but the secrets and lies surrounding Richard's life made their task increasingly difficult. They continued searching for evidence that would reveal the true perpetrator. On July 3, 2014, the investigation took a dramatic turn. The summer heat in Littleton, Colorado, had reached 80 degrees Fahrenheit. Around 10 a.m., Detective James Carroll received a call from the forensic lab reporting that they had found important new evidence. Among Richard Engelbert's belongings, they discovered a small, hidden camera disguised as a smoke detector. This camera, which had been installed in the basement, had recorded activity over the past few weeks. When the team reviewed the footage from the camera, they found video of the day of the murder. The video showed a heated argument between Richard and his stepson, Harrison Engelbert. The argument quickly escalated into a physical fight. In the video, Harrison is seen grabbing the luxury belt from a chair and using it to strangle Richard in a fit of rage. The footage provides clear evidence of Harrison's involvement in his stepfather's murder. The investigators were shocked by the brutality and the motive behind Harrison's anger. With this new evidence, Detective Carroll contacted Harrison and asked him to come in for one final interrogation. Harrison arrived without knowing that there was incriminating video evidence against him. During the interrogation, after being questioned, Harrison was immediately arrested at the police station. Harrison's initial calm demeanor quickly turned to panic and despair when he realized how damning the evidence was. He broke down in tears and confessed that he felt trapped in his relationship with Richard, which he felt was manipulated by his stepfather and his mother, Wendy. He explained that the secrets and Richard's affairs had pushed him to his breaking point. Harrison admitted that in a fit of uncontrollable rage, he killed Richard to free himself from the pressure. Detective Carroll carefully documented Harrison's confession to ensure every detail was recorded. The new evidence combined with Harrison's confession clearly indicated his guilt. On July 4, 2014, just before noon, the Littleton Police Department decided to take decisive action. With Harrison's confession and the incriminating video, Detective James Carroll and his team arrested Harrison for the murder of Richard Engelbert. Harrison, a college student and part-time bartender, had lived a turbulent life. Despite his efforts to overcome his troubled past, the emotional pressure from his affair with his stepfather and his mother's manipulation had pushed Harrison to his limits. The police knew that Harrison was overwhelmed by feelings of betrayal and manipulation from Richard and his mother. On the day of his arrest, Harrison was immediately handcuffed. He appeared angry and showed little emotion as he was led to the police cell. Several people watched the scene with curiosity. Harrison was then formally charged with the murder of Richard Engelbert. Detective Carroll conducted one final interview to document all the details of Harrison's confession. Harrison revealed that he felt trapped and manipulated by Richard and pressured by his mother in his upbringing and life. He described the events leading up to the murder, including the heated argument that turned into a fatal attack. Wendy Engelbert, Richard's wife and Harrison's mother, was also brought in for questioning. The investigation revealed that Wendy had known about Richard's affair in secret for months and had pressured Harrison to continue it because she feared Richard's behavior would harm her chances in her school board election. Although Wendy was not directly involved in the murder, her pressure added complexity to the case. However, she was not charged with any crime. Richard's family was shocked to learn about Richard's double life. They saw him as a devoted husband and father, without realizing he had a secret life. Harrison's arrest caused a mix of emotions within the family, including sadness, anger, and a tragic sense of betrayal and loss over Richard's death. The Littleton community was also stunned by the news, which exposed secrets and lies that shocked the town. Even after the police wrapped up the case, the emotional impact continued to be felt. The truth about Richard's life and death had been revealed. The trial of Harrison Engelbert began on August 15, 2014, in Littleton, Colorado. The courtroom was packed with family, friends, and local media eager to hear the details of the case. The trial became a major news story both locally and nationally. District Attorney Laura Mitchell, a 45-year-old woman known for her strong courtroom presence and dedication to justice, led the prosecution. She argued that Harrison's killing of Richard was a premeditated act driven by deep anger and betrayal. Mitchell presented the hidden camera footage and Harrison's confession as key evidence, emphasizing that despite Harrison's troubled relationship, he was still responsible for his stepfather's death. Harrison's defense was represented by Z. Barnes, a 40-year-old lawyer known for handling high-profile cases. Barnes argued that Harrison's actions were the result of extremely intense emotions and manipulation by Richard and his mother, Wendy. He claimed that Harrison's mental state was unstable and that the pressure he was under made it hard for him to control his actions. Barnes requested that Harrison be found guilty but with consideration for a lesser charge, hoping for a lighter sentence given the circumstances affecting Harrison. Throughout the trial, the victim's family, including Wendy Engelbert and other relatives, appeared very distressed. They were shocked by the revelation of Richard's double life and the chaos it caused. The emotional reactions of Richard's family were evident as they listened to the details of the affair and the murder. On September 5, 2014, the jury found Harrison Engelbert guilty of second-degree murder. They decided that even though Harrison acted in a fit of rage, the killing wasn't premeditated. This verdict sparked mixed reactions. Some felt it was fair, considering the emotional and psychological factors, while others thought the sentence was too lenient, given the brutality of the crime. Harrison was sentenced to 25 years in prison without the possibility of parole. Although this seemed to close the case, the pain and trauma for Richard's family were far from over. The Engelbert family struggled to find peace, knowing that Richard's death was caused by someone so close to them. Meanwhile, Wendy Engelbert, Richard's wife, withdrew from her candidacy for the school board due to the shame of having pressured her son to continue the affair with her husband. So, what do you think about Richard's story that we've covered? Do you think Harrison is still guilty after what Richard did to him? Is this frustrating to you? Drop your opinions in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe to catch more intriguing cases on I Felt the Dark. See you in the next video.